Have you ever noticed how some people seem almost impenetrable? You can talk to them for hours, share a story, even show vulnerability yourself, and yet they never really let you in. Their face stays calm, their voice steady, and you get the feeling there's a whole world of emotions locked behind a door you don't have the key to. Now here's something interesting. The very people who hide their emotions so well aren't necessarily cold or uncaring. They often feel things more deeply than most of us realize. The paradox is that the strength they show on the outside can come with a quiet cost on the inside. Think about a moment you've seen someone cry privately, or laugh in solitude, or quietly fume over an injustice without showing it to anyone. For many people, these private emotional experiences are routine, a part of how they navigate the world. Psychologists refer to this tendency as emotional concealment, and it's more than just a habit, it's a cognitive strategy, a learned way of managing vulnerability. Some people adopt it from childhood, growing up in environments where showing emotion felt unsafe or unpredictable. Others learn it as a survival mechanism in high-pressure workplaces, competitive social circles, or relationships where expressing feelings might have been dismissed or punished. Now here's the fascinating part. Hiding emotions doesn't mean a lack of emotional intelligence. In fact, quite the opposite can be true. Studies consistently show that people who conceal their emotions are often highly attuned to social cues. Their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, social judgment, and self-control, is usually very active. This heightened activity allows them to monitor their surroundings, anticipate reactions, and regulate what they show. Essentially, their brain is constantly running a quiet audit. If I express this, how will it land? Is it safe? What could happen next? While this may appear reserved or distant to outsiders, it's actually a sophisticated form of emotional processing. Let's bring this closer to home. Picture someone at a dinner party. Everyone is laughing, telling stories, and sharing opinions freely. And there's that person, smiling when appropriate, nodding at the right moments, saying the occasional witty line, but keeping their deeper thoughts and feelings close. Outwardly, they seem calm and composed. Inside, however, their mind might be analyzing every conversation, considering every social nuance, and deciding carefully what can safely be expressed. This constant internal evaluation isn't effortless. It requires energy, focus, and self-discipline. Here's another layer to consider. Emotional concealment often coexists with heightened empathy. People who hide their emotions frequently spend more time observing others, understanding moods, detecting subtleties that many would miss. They learn to read a room, to sense what others are feeling before anyone says a word. Their insight can make them excellent friends, partners, and colleagues because they understand emotional dynamics intuitively. But, and this is the catch, being able to perceive so much while holding back your own feelings can also be exhausting. The very skill that allows them to navigate social environments so successfully is also what quietly drains them. Now, some might ask, why not just express emotions? Why keep them hidden? Cognitive psychologists explain this with the concept of self-protective regulation. When the brain anticipates potential social consequences, rejection, judgment, or misunderstanding, it can trigger a mental filter. This filter suppresses the outward expression of feelings while the internal experience remains intact. It's not about being dishonest, it's about survival, about maintaining equilibrium in a world that might not always be safe for vulnerability. Think about the physiological side of this as well. Hiding emotions often involves the subtle activation of the autonomic nervous system. The body's stress response can remain elevated even when the face is neutral. Increased heart rate, muscle tension, or heightened alertness are common signs. Over time, the brain and body get used to running in this mode, quietly regulating expression while still processing emotion internally. This is why some people who appear serene on the outside might retreat to solitude after social interactions. They need a safe space to decompress, to let the emotional energy circulate and dissipate privately. Here's the paradox again. People who hide emotions are often more sensitive, more self-aware, and more socially intelligent than many realize, yet society frequently misinterprets them. Calmness can be read as indifference, composure as coldness, and restraint as disinterest. But the reality is that these individuals often experience emotion just as intensely as anyone else. They have a different approach to expression. And recognizing this is key to understanding them and perhaps even reflecting on our own emotional habits. Now let's consider childhood influence. Many people who develop emotional concealment grew up in environments where emotional expression was unpredictable or risky. Maybe their feelings were dismissed, ignored, or punished. Over time, the brain learns a protective strategy. If expressing vulnerability leads to discomfort or danger, it's safer to manage emotions internally. This adaptation, while highly functional in that context, can follow them into adulthood. Even in safe environments, the habit persists because the neural pathways are well established. In other words, it becomes a deeply ingrained cognitive and emotional pattern. But hiding emotions is not purely defensive. It can also be strategic. People learn that showing restraint can increase credibility, trust, or influence. In leadership roles, for example, displaying composure under stress communicates confidence and control. In personal relationships, measured expression can prevent conflicts from escalating. From a psychological standpoint, this ability to calibrate expression is a sophisticated social skill, blending self-regulation, empathy, and timing. Here's something interesting to think about. The act of hiding emotions doesn't eliminate them, it shapes the way they are experienced. People often engage in internal dialogues, mental rehearsal, and reflective processing to manage what they feel. They might write in journals, create art, or simply spend time alone to explore and understand emotions privately. In this sense, emotional concealment fosters deep introspection, awareness, and a nuanced understanding of human experience. But again, the flip side is that prolonged suppression without outlets can increase stress and reduce emotional well-being over time. Now let's reflect on relationships. People who hide emotions are not incapable of intimacy. They often form very strong, selective bonds. Their connections are usually built on mutual understanding, trust, and patience. They may not share feelings immediately or overtly, but when they do, the depth and thoughtfulness are striking. This selective expression ensures that emotional energy is invested wisely, reinforcing relationships that are meaningful rather than superficial. The paradox is that the more they carefully manage emotional output, the more impactful and genuine their expressions become. And here's a final insight. Hiding emotions is not inherently a flaw. It's a psychological adaptation, a strategy, and sometimes even a strength. The challenge is balance, acknowledging and processing emotions internally while finding safe avenues for expression that support mental health. Therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, and emotional regulation techniques often focus on helping individuals recognize this internal processing and develop ways to express emotions safely without overwhelming themselves or others. So what does this tell us about the human experience? It tells us that expression and experience are not always the same. People who seem reserved or controlled may feel everything more intensely than you imagine. They navigate the world with careful calculation, empathy, and self-awareness, often carrying unseen emotional depth. Their restraint is not a lack of feeling, it's a different rhythm of experiencing life. The quiet takeaway here is simple, yet profound. We all carry cognitive and emotional patterns shaped by experience. Some of us wear our hearts on our sleeves, others keep them tucked close. Neither is inherently better or worse. Both are adaptations, ways to survive, thrive, and make sense of the world. Understanding the psychology of people who hide emotions invites us to be more patient, more observant, and more compassionate, not just towards them, but towards ourselves as well. And perhaps the most human insight of all is this: the mind that hides emotion is not devoid of feeling, it is rich with it, quietly observing, silently processing, and profoundly aware. Recognizing this allows us to see beyond surface appearances and understand the intricate, nuanced ways humans experience, protect, and express what matters most. After all, understanding isn't just about what we see, it's about what we feel, even when it's hidden.